Hello everyone, this is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. I'm heading back to Boston. As you can see, there's Richard who's driving. Hey Richard, say hello. There's Mike.
Hello.
And anyway, as we're going back to Boston, we just heard news that the New Jersey Senate has, once again introduced this bill. First of all, it was a big victory for the people of New Jersey because it really set an important direction on how you fight. But you got to understand something that I was thinking about, and I've thought about this before, and I was just sharing this with Michael and Richard, is that fundamentally the establishment has so many different ways of attempting to constrain freedom, to tax us, and fundamentally never ever solving the real problems. The establishment exists to perpetuate itself through power, profit, and control. And key to this is through corruption of a set of people. So in that model, as I spoke about, they never solve the real issues, which is infrastructure issues, which is addressing the crumbling roads and the bridges, the infrastructure issues really governing everything having to do with, for example, the educational system or the research and scientific establishment, which is critical in bringing up people who critically think and discovering truth. So they've paid off the academics, they've paid off the scientists. By and large, there's still some very good people there, but the academic system constrains the development of truth. So that infrastructure is busted, those institutions. Then you come to freedom. What's fundamentally happened is that we have created a situation where major companies like Google and Facebook control, and a few telecommunications companies control the flow of this conversation I'm having with you. They can cut it off overnight. And there are other institutions of infrastructure, like the United States Postal Service, which I've talked about, which has not addressed the opportunities for us to have the public comments to converse. The Postal Service should have gone beyond just doing postal mail. They should have done email and Facebook and Google. And there's still an opportunity to do this. So we have lost our infrastructure for free communications. And the third part of this is when it comes to the infrastructure for health, we have a completely corrupt healthcare system, big pharma, big insurance companies, and big hospitals, which want to constrain the entire access to medicine. But now, for example, with the vaccine choice issue, that mandatory vaccinations, etc. But when you look at this, most of us work for a living. Politicians do not work. The career politicians do not work. You must ask this question. Many of you have been in this war on vaccine choice for a long time. We had a victory, but we know the establishment has a lot of resources. And how do we fight the big battle? And my conclusion is, the reason I'm running for United States Senate in Massachusetts is because if you remember Star Wars, all of these great films always have some allegory, but when you have everyday people, a ragtag crew of people trying to organize, who is the real enemy? And we have a limited set of resources. And if you look at where I believe the real enemy is, the epicenter of the enemy, it is in Massachusetts. And I tell you this for one particular reason. Yes, it's also the career politicians, but when the British lost their war, remember Massachusetts was the cradle of the revolution. When the war was lost, these people didn't pack up and go back to London. The quote-unquote blue bloods embedded themselves in places like Massachusetts. And if you look at the particular location in Cambridge between MIT and Harvard, within a 1 mile radius, you will see the most evil organizations on the planet. Google, Facebook, Monsanto, MIT, Harvard, the centers of intelligentsia. In fact, I would argue that behind every major economic collapse in the world, you could trace it back to a professor at Harvard or MIT. If you look at the healthcare model that was created, it was created by Jonathan Gruber. If you look at all the advisors of major presidents, they all come out of typically Harvard or MIT. So the intellectual center, the longitude and the latitude, is between MIT and Harvard. It is in Massachusetts. And it is my belief that we as a people have an opportunity, by my winning that Senate election, a untouchable kid who came from India with nothing, who's been a fighter all of his life, who's earned everything, not like Joe Kennedy, who I may be running after. By the way, I have great respect for John F. Kennedy, but the bloodline of the Kennedys has been pretty much devastated with Ted Kennedy, the recent Joe Kennedy. These people are nothing like JFK. They have destroyed places like Massachusetts, 18% increase in homelessness, higher than any other state. You have crumbling bridges, you have highest opioid epidemics, and this has been caused by the past, the old school people. And Massachusetts is, by the way, the swamp that feeds a swamp in DC. So we have a big opportunity in 2020 by my winning the U.S. Senate election for Truth, Freedom, and Health. Imagine a guy like me in the Senate for 6 years, and I'm only going to serve one term, exposing not only the corruption and the decadence of the system, but actually offering real solutions. Thank you, Lollipop. I'm definitely running. Imagine me fighting not only on vaccine choice, but interconnecting the vaccine choice issue with the stranglehold they want to do with removing our weapons away. Look, there's a lot of people people with guns are the same people who are also being attacked in the same way that the people who want to have freedom on how to vaccinate their kids. If you look at every issue, it is typically the establishment not wanting to solve the infrastructure issues, the real infrastructure issues, and imposing a fake problem and a fake solution. And those fake problems and those fake solutions are created by the intelligentsia between MIT and Harvard. So we must win. And we have an opportunity to win with a guy like me, a real fighter, a real scientist in Massachusetts. So everyone listening out there, go to the Shiva for Senate page. If you want to volunteer, great. You know, if you want to give money, awesome. We want to raise about 100,000 people I need to give $20. And by the way, I don't want your money. If you give me something, I also will give you a book called System and Revolution. I'm going to train you how your body is a system, and you get a bumper sticker, and you can do more stuff. But the issue is we need to build a ground force of people to recognize that Massachusetts, the epicenter between MIT and Harvard, is the center of the cause of 90% of the problems, not only in Massachusetts, but in this country, and I would argue in the world. It is where the biggest swamp creatures come out of. And a guy like me, one of your own, winning there would be a shockwave. You know, when I go to Kendall Square and MIT and I look around, I mean, you can just look around. You see Monsanto's office there. You see Facebook's office there. You see Google's office there. You see Big Pharma's office there. Who else, Richard? Every Bill Gates has funded one whole building at MIT. Every major company, every major entity, which is the entity which truly wants to deny our freedom, which comes up with fake problems, fake solutions to profit themselves, comes out of that epicenter. So I'm telling you all, get out there in whatever way you can do, support my campaign for Shiva for Senate, because it's not about me winning, it's for you. It's time we had one of you representing us. And the tip of that spear of the Shiva for Senate campaign is for truth, freedom, and health. Truth, freedom, and health. And for 6 years, starting right now, which I've already been doing. By the way, this campaign for truth, freedom, and health is not something I just decided. I've been doing this for about 30 years. You can look at my history going back 40 years. So I hope everyone listening, not only in New Jersey and Massachusetts, realize let's surround the city, which is, or the center of the deep state, from outside in, and win in 2020. Shiva for Senate is your campaign for truth, freedom, and health. So that's why I'm running, because Massachusetts, we win in Massachusetts. It's like taking, the sword of Excalibur and thrusting it right into the belly of the beast. So anyway, Shiva for Senate, we're heading back home, but we'll be in touch. Watch the campaign. It's all interconnected. It's all one system. Richard, say goodbye.
Bye.
Mike, thank you guys. Be well.